So we're gathered here to talk about D&D.
Started to sound like a wedding.
Yeah, we're dearly beloved. We're gathered here at the Cult of Geek to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and magic, and particularly magic, because you've got a new channel which is focused on all things magic.
Yes.
And so far, it's really, really good. I've been really impressed.
I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And although I'm sort of tangentially involved in it, really,
Yeah.
you're doing all the writing and all the editing and all that sort of stuff. So I'm just there for technical support.
Of which it has been very valuable so far.
Well, when I started out, I had no idea what I was doing. Obviously, anybody who's watched any of my original videos will see that classic, oh, what a train wreck. So,
Not a train wreck, just like...
well, a train not very well tuned.
Yeah,
It's definitely got
those sharp corners that sort of goes onto one wheel for a little bit and then sort of clashes back down.
Yeah, occasionally weirdly breaking into too loud techno music, and then
Yeah.
So I stopped and I started, and I had some idea of what I was doing, but I had Anyway,
And
enough about me.
Yeah, enough about you and your godlike ways.
So, magic.
Magic.
And you're focused on Faerun, but also other worlds in the D&D. So you see the D&D multiverse as a multiverse?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
All of the worlds have their own unique rules when it comes to magic, but they also have a lot of similarity.
Yeah.
I like Faerun because a lot of the other worlds just go, we have magic, we have spells. Spells are magic to an extent. Whereas Faerun is one of the few ones to go, actually, spells have an underlying magic that they come from, and we call it the weave.
Right. Is there a weave in any place where the gods have sway over mystical forces and stuff?
Yes, I'd say so. To a lesser extent to Faerun, but Mystra and Midnight and whatever other names she's gone
she
under.
was Mistral, then Mystra, and now she's been superseded by her assistant Midnight.
See, this is why it's wonderful to have you here.
So I think with the Forgotten Realms, we basically get to see the workings underneath the hood, you could say, because the gods are more actively involved in the world.
The goddess of magic on Faerun has a much better understanding of the limitations of a casa, or the weave, as she calls it. She's able to create a lot more effects from it and has a greater dominion over it. Because she's affecting the weave directly, and it's the weave that everyone else uses to create spells, she can have a lot more say as to what mages and other people can do, versus other versus other gods and goddesses of magic, who can tell their followers to do something, but the followers can ignore that if they want to. But it's hard to ignore Mystra when she's literally saying, you can't cast 10th level spells.
Right. Yeah, but now they may well be able to.
Yeah, and
so
that's exciting.
I hear a lot of people talking about how the Forgotten Realms is all planned out, and it's like your adventurers, your characters are trying to take place or be heroes in a world which has already got heroes, and it's already got these things going on, and you're really just sort of bit players in these big major events which are happening and unfolding elsewhere. But on the other hand, there's a lot going on that makes the current time of Faerun very interesting. So, for instance, the dragons have been under the control of the Dragon Mythal, the Dragon Rage
Preventing the
spell.
Dragon Rage.
Yeah, so every time the star goes over top of this comet, essentially, all the dragons go crazy.
Yeah.
So they can't congregate together, and they can't plan anything past this event where if they've killed their own offspring and all that sort of stuff, because they get turned into mindless savages.
Yeah, the people listening can't see me nodding at you.
Right, yeah. So the war between, the rivalry between Bahamut and Tiamat, for instance, has been sort of on a cold back burner of the world of Faerun, because they're unworkable minions, they're unworkable pawns in their war.
Yeah.
So they're taking it off world,
It's very hard to plot the downfall of the other when all of the people who would do that downfall are busy fighting themselves.
Yeah, it's so hard to get good help these days. So now the Dragon Rage mythal has ended. It's over. It's been broken. So the dragons are no longer under the sway of this. They can now set their eyes once more on taking control of the world of Toril again. The giants,
think of quite a few parties that, the giants are not going to be very happy with that.
So the giants in the background have largely been sedentary. So they're not, from the perspective of most mortals in the world of the continent of Faerun. And remember, that's only one chunk of one land on a world with many continents.
Yeah.
So the giants are still around. The world of Forgotten Realms is concentrating on Faerun because that's where Astoria, their empire, was once located. And they stood in opposition to the dragons. So now they're not around.
The creation of classes and release times and things, that runs pretty concurrently with what plot they choose to twist for Faerun, right? So do you think that we're going to see, and we're starting to talk about the plot of Faerun more than magic, but
we're getting back around to it because dragons are magical.
Yes,
and the giants had a lot of magic, and one of the things that I've been investigating as I start working on a video on the Artificer.
I was going to ask, do you think the Artificer class is going to be able to recreate the mythal, the Dragon Rage mythal, artificially?
Well, one of the things is that the dragons are not completely under the sway of one god or the other of their own pantheon. Even
makes sense.
They've become a people that are independent and apart from each other. So it's maybe. And also, they're very egotistical. Even the best of dragons is very egotistical.
Yeah, I once heard the phrase something like dragons are the avatars of narcissism.
Yeah, exactly. So even the best of dragons, the gold metallic dragons, for instance, were set themselves up as kings of the gold elves back in the height of the Elven Empire before the Five Crown Wars.
Well, they can't rule themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Rule them for their own good.
Exactly. And part of the fall of the Eleutheri, the Dark Elves, was because of their manipulation of dragons, the Chromatic Dragons. Yeah. And that was one of the things that's why the elves kind of set up this thing. It's like, we've got to remove these super weapons and these dictators and get ourselves out from underneath their petty wars and things. And we can take over this world for ourselves.
How did they break the Dragon Rage mythal?
Something happened. It could have been. I don't know. I have to look it up.
The way that the mythal works, as far as I understand it, is it's a massive. So a spell is a weave of a casa, which after a time will dissipate.
Yeah.
But the mythal
something
is
of
a
that level of power.
Loop.
Yeah. So one of the most recent sort of mythal type spells that's been enacted in the story and the lore was Cadley trapping a demon by essentially sacrificing himself to keep the spell going.
Right. Okay.
So in these powerful rituals, it's quite often a group of sorcerers or wizards or whatever, and in order to do these very high level spells, they have to have a high wisdom as well as an intelligence score. Yeah. So it behooves them to be followers of a god, and they work together and they work in absolute harmony, and one of them generally sacrifices themselves to make sure that their life force, their potential, their soul essentially keeps the spell going. So the spell's almost like a living thing running off them as an engine.
I kind of liken it for permanent enchantments, sort of like you're taking a river and diverting it. And if the diversion can work for a little bit, but then eventually the river runs true based on its old path, and will go back, and that new river will dry up.
Right, natural forces as opposed to
exactly. But if something like a mythal could be so powerful that the river is permanently diverted,
right,
and so this new river has all of this force behind it, which keeps it perpetually running.
Yeah. So that was tied into a cosmic event, the coming of this shooting star, which coincided with the Dragon Rage, so it was like this waxing
Right.
and waning of it. And the dragons, of course, would see the coming of the star and be like, "Oh shit! They've got to seclude myself in a lock myself away, essentially, so I don't destroy everyone I'm allied with, etc." Of course, the Chromatic Dragons didn't really care. Anyway, so now we're in another age of progress, and the Lanternese island has got smoke powder. They're manufacturing shield golems. There's artifice and technological progress, but one of the things I've always sort of been rankled with is people comparing most of D&D to it's like medieval Europe, etc. It's not.
No, not really.
This is a world with magic, so magic and technology are combined together, and
which already makes it far removed from medieval Europe.
Why would you bother making 6 shooters and stuff if you've got the capacity to shoot unerring missiles from a piece of wood?
I have a theory about that. My theory has always been that sorcerers, it's a random chance that you're going to have enough of a birthright to be able to get the spells.
Or a curse.
Or a curse, yep. Wizards tends to be a rich person's game.
Yeah, so wizards have a place in the medieval society. Like, for instance, the Host Tower of the Arcane in Luskan. They are a faction. And factions in D&D became very popular around the time of Vampire the Masquerade, and the factions of different vampire clans was highly fashionable and everybody liked it, so D&D decided to copy it wholesale and write it into the story of all these different games. So you have the Red Wizards of Thay, you have the Zentarum, you have the Harpers, you have the Lord's Alliance, and that sort of thing.
You have all of these powerful magical groups, which just because they had the time and the ability and the money, really, to learn this magic, rose to power. Technology, I think, would be a answer to that. It's all of these people who didn't have enough time or money or places of privilege to learn magic, and so they've said, we need to keep up with them, otherwise they will rule us forever. Technology is the response to magic to make sure that the common person is able to keep up with wizards. Yeah,
the current world of Faerun is in a dystopian time after the fall of a major empire.
Yeah.
And it was a major empire of magic. And it caused a lot of trouble in the world. Like, the overuse of magic causes the attraction of these creatures, the Faerun, who essentially leached the land of Anarok, which was this great big fertile plain that was the cradle of human civilization for a very long time.
Oh, and that's why it's like a desert now.
Yeah, that's why it's a desert, because these things sucked the life out of the land. They were going to destroy the entire world, turn it into another Dark Sun.
Ouch.
Yeah. And
we don't even need the first Dark Sun.
Right, and because they couldn't, because these things ate magic, the Netherese wizards were basically powerless against them. It took an alliance of different gods to turn well-meaning wizards into these things called the Shan, which is still lurking around the place.
That was a very controversial statement I made about Dark Sun not needing even one of them. So you guys will probably never hear that part.
Well, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of. I understand the point of Dark Sun, but I think it's been largely superseded by more modern games which handle that feel of it better, which is probably not music to the ears of people who have been playing Dark Sun for a long time, but a lot of the people who champion these old settings have not moved on with the current editions as well. So it's like, not only would I have to go back and cover Dark Sun, but I'd have to convert it into 5th edition, which is going to cause all sorts of problems in and of itself anyway. So
how do you handle desecrate? Oh, I have some ideas about desecration magic.
Yeah, and like Kryn, for instance, had a huge divorce from its original sort of thematic elements to the later editions of source books and things that came out, and it's almost unrecognizable from the Dragonlance that we knew in the novels.
Yeah, there was a fan-made project, I believe, for 4th edition for Kryn. Yeah. But it was just so different.
Yeah, it's just dead in the water. You're like, ugh. So not only is it very appealing to people who are not looking for a very specific sort of setting to run their game in, because every game setting should have a vibe, should have a feel. It should be like as different to playing. If you want to play a horror game, you play Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
You don't play a Star Wars game and make it a horror game. If you want to play a swashbuckling sort of adventure space wizards game, you play Star Wars.
Yeah.
If you want to play a more hard-bitten sort of really simplistic system with good stories and things like that, and a lot of management and trade and things like that, you play Traveller. If you want to play a slapstick science fiction game, you play Paranoia.
Yeah, if you want to play a game that takes all of those different aspects, GURPS.
GURPS, yep. So there's the generic rule system. So in a way, Dungeons and Dragons is a generic rule system. You can run any sort of setting you want with it, but it's not always going to be a perfect fit.
No.
And some of the settings that people really love, like Ravenloft, for instance, is classic horror elements. Yeah. But you can play a slapstick Ravenloft game, or you can play a really scary Ravenloft game. And people who are just getting into Ravenloft, it sort of behooves the fans of Ravenloft for many, many years to back off the accelerator a little bit and give these guys a chance to get the basic idea of why Ravenloft should exist. Why, the Ravenloft vampires are not the same as D&D vampires.
No.
One of the interesting things about Ravenloft is the dark powers which segregated off these tore chunks off the planes of existence and turned them into these demi-realms in the first place. Because that's exactly what's happened in the Descent into Avernus, where powers and factions in the Nine Hells have actually dragged bits of whole cities of people down into the Nine Hells, which is very much a no-no.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's these people have done nothing wrong. They shouldn't be getting dragged down there. So the Celestials should get involved.
It's the Macross saga all over again.
Yeah. So this is the chance for people to DMs to bring stories together where you do have these clashes between the forces of good and the forces of evil.
Yeah.
Otherwise, most of the old legacy sort of stories in D&D are the clashes between the forces of law and chaos.
And that's tougher to do in 5th edition.
Yeah, well, it's not so polarized, and alignment takes a back step in regards to player characters. But it's a mistake to say that alignment doesn't exist in D&D anymore.
No,
because it forms the structure of the planes of existence, for instance.
It also, no one says, "Oh, I'm definitely a lawful character during character creation," but that you do have the tables of your moods and your flaws and things like that, which are very much the diametric opposition of law chaos.
Perfectly fine with somebody saying, when I first created this character, when this character was first level, this is what their alignment most closely matched. During gameplay, your alignment can change of your character.
I prefer making characters that are okay, I'm usually chaotic, but when it comes to gambling, I go by the book.
Yeah, because I've been taught a system.
Yeah,
by somebody who I rely on for truth. Or I'm usually chaotic, but if we just let everything fall by the wayside, our world is going to go to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, I'm usually chaotic, but someone has to keep the notes for the campaign.
Right. Han Solo, for instance. I'm usually pretty mercenary. I just look out for myself. But in this particular instance, this is a war that involves all of my friends.
Yeah, maybe I will show up again and blow up the TIE fighter.
Yeah. Just somebody tell me that I'm going to get paid at the end of this. You get more wealth than you could possibly imagine. All right, I'm in.
Done.
Yeah. I've ticked the box of a mercenary. I can bluff my way out of this and say, no, I just did it for the money. So, yeah, alignment certainly exists. And there is these factions and divisions between them. But it's kind of nebulous. For instance, at the moment, in the modern world, the dragons are now starting to work. Bahamut and Tiamat are more active in the world of Faerun now, so the giants are probably going to come out of the woodwork too, and that's where the cloud giant artificers come into play.
Yes,
you'll hear me talk about them when I talk about videos. There's other factions from ancient empires, so the Deep Imaskari people are coming out of seclusion from their hidden city in the Underdark.
Yeah,
and so that's a chunk of an ancient empire that has fallen a very, very long time ago. Now all that remains of them really are weird ruins of very, very strong stone and a desert made of purple rock that their skyscrapers used to be made out of. But these guys had skyscrapers, they had dirigibles, they had portals, they had cell phones sort of thing.
Faerun must look very weird from space. It's like there's this purple patch, there's this white patch, there's the Great Desert.
Yeah, I imagine you probably can see the purple sheen from space. Yeah, and it's just a little chunk of it. I've got an animated GIF of the world of Toril actually spinning around.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, let's see. I'll put this on the screen around now. Anyway, or you can put it on the screen. I'll send it to you. Anyway, so the world is very, very dynamic, and it's in a pivotal part where it's coming out of a time of relative primitive squalor, dystopian squalor, and with these small little petty kingdoms and factions and things going on, and it's been fine. It has been kind of like a medieval Dark Ages type, thing, and wizards sort of lorded it over. And the one thing is, like, magic has not been widespread across the population because there was this great big disaster. The god of magic herself said, "I'm restricting the use of magic to people who really have to work at it now." And the wizards exacerbated this by saying magic is dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just a privilege anymore. It's not a right of us to use it anymore. We really have to safeguard this. And in the process, I can get very rich and powerful. So,
I mean, magic is ultimately a neutral force. A caster can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
I think what Wizards meant to say was, people generally let power go to their heads.
Yeah. The reason why the Wizards now is pretty much the province of nobles and things is because where do you think these noble families got all their money and influence from?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like, yes, we've had wizards in the court for the last 200 years of the Cormerian Empire. So we're not directly in leadership or anything like that, but we're basically almost like a church faction. Oh. Not only that, but it kind of annoys me that religion is very important in Faerun, and the politics of the different faiths and things like that is very important. It's not all kumbaya, come into our church and worship whoever you like.
I can't even imagine a goddess of the ocean getting on well with a goddess of the ocean.
Right, yeah. Umberlee and Deep Sashalas, for instance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember Umberlee. I couldn't remember Deep Sashalas.
Yeah. So not only that, but there's been recent events where the gods have gotten messed up, and some of these faiths have lost their god. Just because the gods died doesn't mean their church goes away.
Is the spell plague still canon?
Yeah, well, I don't know. The jury's out on that. We'll see how it works out.
I really like the spell plague.
I'm pretty sure it'll settle down by 6th edition. Who knows? Maybe 7th.
I really want to do a video on spell plague and living spells.
Right, yeah. So there's areas where there's hoogie-woogie stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I know that the 5th edition is concentrated very much on the Sword Coast and stuff. But the older editions of the D&D, the Sword Coast was the frontier, and it was very much focused around the Inner Sea. So the Inner Sea has got Thay, it's got Cormyr, it's got Unther, it's got the old empires and things like that. And that's where all of the action happened. And when you think
that's
about
where all the books happened as well.
Yeah, it makes sense, because if you're operating a ship or something around the Inner Sea, not only is the Inner Sea completely occupied by all these aquatic races who have this history of war and destruction themselves with the Seros War, but Cormyr and Sembia and all these other places have been stirred up into warfare numerous times because of Thay manipulating everybody. Thay's now taken it. All of the undead lich lords of Thay have taken a step back and said, you know what, we're probably going to achieve more with milk than honey. So why don't we send all of the red wizards, and instead of them being seen as these agents of evil, like the Zentarum or something, why don't we set them up as merchants who deal with magical items and provide reliable, services to people, all these adventurers and things.
Really?
Yeah, so the red wizards are now travelling around Faerun, and they're seen as, you see a red wizard robes and their face tattoos and stuff. They don't necessarily all shave their heads these days because, they've travelled away from Thay. And they blend in with the populace. And they set themselves up as merchants. So,
and artificers, I guess.
Yeah. So they're the Google of the Forgotten Realms. Like, the Google is watching you. They are planning and plotting things. Dark forces, unliving powers, intelligences beyond you or I are plotting in the deep basements of some far-off city.
I do enjoy the fact that you're using that metaphor and putting this onto YouTube later.
Exactly. But Yeah, so there is at the heart of the Thay Corporation, there is thoroughly evil stuff going on.
Thay Inc.
Thay Incorporated. But these red wizards, if you want to sell your magic items, you don't go down to some pawn shop in some small town. You go and find a red wizard who not only can give you a reliable trade bar or something like that, which is worth 20,000 gold pieces to any other place where red wizards operate. And of course, what will the red wizards be doing? They'll be supplying spell components and rare animal parts to the Host Tower of the Arcane, or the
Thay Inc. We enchant what others can't.
Yep, exactly. You got something that glows weird, you're not sure what to do with it. We'll take it off your hands and give you some coin.
Oh man!
Lost tablets, language you can't read. We'll take a look at it.
We'll take that off your hands.
Yep.
Look, that's just taking up inventory space. Wouldn't you rather have 50 gold for it?
Yeah. Were you ploughing the backfield and half of it caved in, and now you've got ant hegs and God knows what crawling out of some ruin underneath your farm? You ain't got time to deal with that. You've got pumpkins and turnips to deal with. So let's call in the Red Wizards of Thay. They know some adventurers who can who can go in there and sort it out.
Okay, so they haven't really changed their because the last I heard about them, they were trying to collect as many magical items as possible.
Yes, but now
they're doing it through legitimate commerce.
Now they have PR. They've got good PR.
Right.
And so they're trusted and reliable, and they're widespread. So you can find them all over the place. And of course, they run into the problem with Lantern, and Lantern is essentially technologically powerful. They're trading with nobles for shield guardians.
Wow.
These big golems that you're like, I'm going to go trekking into the jungles of Chult, for instance. I'm going to need something reliable to take with me. Something that I don't have to feed, something that I don't have to pay every day. So I'm going to take a shield golem and go in there. These are things which are capable of defending your keep.
AJ, Tuesday game. I'd like a shield golem.
Would you?
Yes, please.
Well, you're in Chult right now, so that can be arranged.
Yeah.
So Lantern is a religious theocracy because it is ruled over by Gond. The primary presence there, the driver of its industry, is Gond. Gond is providing everything that their population needs there by giving them information and technology to grow and develop as a technological power. Essentially, they're like Japan.
Within a certain extent, though, because you were saying before that black powder, for example, just doesn't work because Gond wills it.
Gond wills the black powder not to work. So gunpowder, as we know it from Earth, if we travelled over there right now, it would actually be 1763 DR or something like that. Yeah, because the Forgotten Realms that we know is actually a few hundred years in the past in the source books.
This is interesting to me, this whole black powder doesn't work because Gond wills it. As far as I understand from the gods of Faerun, Umberlee, for example, has to directly put a focus power into one of the oceans to create something that will sink a ship that offends her.
Yep.
Tymora has to take a hand in affecting the luck of one of her followers.
Right.
But it seems like Gond and Mystra are the only ones who seem to be able to make a decree, and something doesn't work because they've said it to begin with, but don't have to take a direct hand in it. So Mystra says no 10th level spells, and no matter where you are, 10th level spells don't happen until now.
Right.
Gond says black powder doesn't ignite, and no matter where it is, black powder doesn't ignite.
Right. So you could say that the weave doesn't just affect magic, and the portfolio,
which we know.
And the portfolios of the gods is their mythological imprinting by the minds and wills of the population to be a part of the workings of these things. So they are. So you can have a god, say, of trade and artifice. So Gond is a god of technology.
Mm-hmm.
So is Moradin.
Right.
Moradin is a more powerful god than Gond. So everything that Gond does, Moradin gets a say in it too. And when Gond says, you know what, I don't want any gunpowder to work on the planet of Toril, Gond then says, is that okay with you, Moradin? And Moradin says, yes.
Okay. So that change is sort of like an ongoing edict or a spell.
Yep.
the spell then passes through, is propagated through the various other faiths.
Yep. But here's the crazy thing. If Moradin wanted to, because he supersedes in that portfolio of technology, he supersedes Gond, he could say, apart from dwarves.
Yeah, so if a dwarf holds a shotgun, the shotgun goes off.
Yeah, well, it doesn't go off until he invokes my name.
Right.
So the dwarf says, "Oh, great Moradin, please bless us with your fire." Pulls trigger.
Kaboom.
Gunpowder works.
Yeah.
Human picks it up, says, "Oh, great dwarven god, make this thing work." Pulls trigger.
Nothing.
Click.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind Flayer kills him.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "That's blatantly unfair." It's like,
That's gods.
Yeah. That's because you live in a fantasy world that's got rules.
And it makes it... I might have to do a whole video just on sympathetic magic.
Yeah. So that's it. I mean, the gods are present in the world in an extent which is way beyond the intelligence of a normal mortal human being. We can't focus on 60,000 conversations with us at once, but gods can, across multiple planes of existence. And not only that, but they need all those different consciousnesses across different planes of existence. And the planes of existence are just dimensional states of the same location. So, who knows?
Gods are gods partly because they have an innate sense of understanding of the mechanics of a casa.
Yeah. Well, they'd have to because they're a part of it.
Yeah. Exactly. But they're fundamentally made of it, same as everyone else. But they're a casa because it's pre-concentrated. I think gives them their forms.
Yeah. So in a way, the gods are locked into what people think they are.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why the gods of Tarkesis, for instance, is Tiamat on the world of Kryn. It's still Tiamat, but she's in a different form there because people think of her in a different way.
Yeah.
So she's a dragon goddess, but she's also in the form of a humanoid female.
To really stretch the metaphor of spells, everyone just thinks that waving the hands and abracadabra, that's a spell. But belief, a litany of words inside a prayer book, giving a shape to Tiamat, that's also a spell. It's an ongoing spell that everyone is constantly reciting and replenishing.
Yep.
Because they believe it.
Yeah, they're devoting their attention and will to it.
Yeah.
And will is a tangible force in a world where magic is real. It's built into it. So, that's about half an hour and we've gotten to a good grounding work of starting to talk about how present magic is in the world of just one world.
We've went from starting to talk about magic to talking about how Athos is kind of old-fashioned to how Tiamat is a five-headed chromatic dragon because everyone thinks that she should be and therefore is casting a spell of true polymorph on her constantly.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
I love talks with you.
And then you have the problem of other faiths and religions, particularly in old versions of D&D. So, for instance, there was the Melnemonian religion, and there was like Cthulhu mythos in old D&D as well. That's got written out because of copyright and stuff. But to the viewers,
Dagon is still there.
Yeah, to the viewers at home, you're not restricted by copyright.
No,
you can use anything you want. You can put Scientology in there if you want to.
If you wanted to.
Absolutely. You can have Seventh-day Adventists walking around if you wanted to.
If people have taken ancient Egyptians and put them into Faerun, why can't they take from modern times any of the current faiths?
Exactly. So in the current Faerun of 1493 DR, the humans that would arrive if you ported them from the planet immediately would be from 1750.
Right.
Which is black powder, which is basically the
Age of Enlightenment.
It's the Three Musketeers in the Renaissance.
Yeah.
So they're just starting to get technological development. So again, it corresponds perfectly with Langton and this age of experimentation and stuff, with these brewing ancient forces which are becoming more active in the land.
I wonder if Gond has a sort of... I guess Gond would have a connection with all technological advancement at that galactic standard time on all of the worlds, even where there is no magic. So I guess in a way he's looking at black powder and then projecting forward into Earth technology, going, oh no, we don't want black powder.
Yeah. And there's quite a few of the gods, particularly like Gond. You think of him as a almost like a gnome god, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I think of him as.
Yeah, but he's not. He's not restricted to one particular race or other. Nor is Moradin, really. Moradin is the father of the dwarves. He created the dwarves. But he's more powerful than just the dwarves. You know, he was a massive creative force before the dwarves existed.
Yeah, that's true.
Moradin remembers a time where there were no dwarves.
I have a really weird philosophy when it comes to races in Faerun and technology and magic. I feel like some races are more inclined to technology and some races are more inclined to magic. So I think of Gond as gnome because I think gnomes are really... Having the right to technology is not the right phrase, but I don't know how else to say.
And that's just one particular aspect of one particular factional type of gnomes.
Yeah.
Then you have forest gnomes, or ghost-wise halflings and that sort of thing, who are very much like more elven, more nature-orientated. And nature, we were talking about this today as well, how nature is a force which has its own rules, its own intelligence behind it, its own system and things, and it doesn't conform to what we think of as, like, it's got the same sort of effects and stuff.
Yeah.
And you were talking about portals and things like that, which you're going to be talking about in an upcoming video, which was fascinating. Definitely something to tune into.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I came up with the idea of, like, imagine you've got this this glade or something like that where it's being tended to by a circle of elven druids.
Yep.
And the circle of elven druids, with an average lifespan of 700 years or so, or longer, with these druids who can preserve themselves for a very, very long time, have this... They don't carry scrolls or books of learning. They've actually engineered moss on a tree to grow in such a way that the normal cycles of nature are codified by their landscaping and all that sort of stuff to actually grow in a message that they can read.
That's it's brilliant.
It's mind-boggling, right?
Yeah.
And it's completely out of the fathoming of your average human. It's like, what? You're relying on fickle nature to do this? You're encoding your knowledge into the cycles of whatever's going on in this hill with nobody's involvement.
It's going to take how long? 20 years just to grow this? What if it gets into 10 years and you need the knowledge now?
What if there's a drought or something in 500 years from now? What if somebody's built a town on this and it's gone?
Yeah.
Or what if everybody forgets that this is there? And it's like, well, this is the Forgotten Realms. There's all sorts of stuff like this all over the place. It's not only are you living on a post-apocalyptic ruins of a previous magical civilization, you're living on the bones of several other civilizations which fell before you.
You're basically... Faerun is essentially gamma, 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 gamma world.
Right. Or it's like the Numenera thingy of... this is the 7th iteration of the world.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Forgotten Realms is right now. You've got ancient immortal Naga who were engineered to go out and explore the world and have set themselves up in their little grottos and things, and for thousands of years these ever-living entities, quite alien in their mindset, have been dwelling and watching the goings-on of these mammals which have cut themselves up and, So they watch the elves do their thing, they watch the elves get subjugated by dragons, and the dragons get fought with giants, and then they both sort of fell, and then the elves basically tore themselves apart in a series of civil wars, and then the dwarves, who knows where they came from, just tunneled their way from the mountain ranges. And
can you imagine the magic of a people so well-lived, long-lived?
And the Naga, they have no ambition. They just have been narcissistic the entire time. And the Yuan-Ti have no emotion. They're just like, we will take over this world one day. But, whenever. Whenever. And there's other places where things have sort of fallen by the wayside, or races which have came over and made the best of it. So, for instance, when the orcs got transported to the world, there's been 2 successive waves of orcs from off-world. We don't even know if it was the same homeworld that the orcs came from, or they're 2 different sort of factions. But all of the orcs that you see on
timelines, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So it could be like the Mulan people. They came from ancient Mesopotamia or ancient Egypt. So the orcs got brought over first by the giants in the time when they were fighting a very, very long time ago.
Okay.
That may have actually been an inter-giant conflict. I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And don't forget that the giants conquered pre-existing reptile civilizations, thunder beasts, things like that, when they were established in Astoria.
Yeah.
So they trampled some other ancient civilization underfoot at the same time. That's like at some point the whatchamacallit, the sort of furry subterranean
mole people,
humanoid. Anyway, so there's various people who went underground as well. I made a video about them. I should know.
You've made a lot of videos.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be any help. I'm stuck on mole people.
So okay, the furry mole people.
Yeah.
So they once lived on the surface world and got driven underground because of competition and stuff, and made the best of it. And you've got a lot of other little parts. Like there's some civilized orcs who are making their way on the fringes of the Horde lands and things.
Yeah.
Who have culture and language and civilization and stuff, and they won't kill you the first time they look at you.
I'm gonna get it wrong.
The Thayan orcs, for instance.
Zaran? Where the desert where we were in the Tuesday game before we went to Chult.
Oh, the Lands of Mystery.
Yeah, the Lands of Mystery. They apparently have the cultured orcs there.
Yep, yeah. And the Yak folk.
And Eberron have the urban orcs.
Right, yeah. So it's entirely possible that you would have... so the host tower of the Arcane, for instance, could accept a delegate from a Hobgoblin warband, a very powerful Hobgoblin warband, which has subjugated a previously lawless area, and you tolerate the lawful evilness of the Hobgoblins because they basically work for gold. As long as they keep working, they're satisfying the tenets of their faith of McGlubiet. As long as they keep on fighting and killing and taking over the surface world and are not driven underground by anybody, then everything's hunky-dory. They're just a mercenary race who are perfectly fine. Like, they make sense as a faction or something. You've got various companies of mercenaries. What does it matter what race they are in the first place? So from the host tower of the Arcane may in fact train some of these Hobgoblins, and they may walk around, or they could have relationships and things. You could have teenage Hobgoblins whose dad is an influential ambassador
or a minister of defense.
Yeah, well, he's been trained up by the host tower of the Arcane because those guys are not exactly morally okay. And they don't care. It's like, well, they pay us a lot of gold to train these guys, and these guys are really dedicated. Like, one of the things about you can tell in a Hobgoblin Arcanist because they're wiry and look like they're stretched thin because they put 100% into their spellcasting because they're expected to cast spells and to decimate armies.
Yeah.
And
you look at their sheet and it's like, Warcaster, of course.
Yeah. But they're almost like flagellants, they're just like totally dedicated to it. It's like whatever the cost in arcane power. And arcane power does have a personal cost.
Yes.
For these people.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And also, one of the videos I made that was fairly popular and stirred up a lot of a debate is, what is a hedge wizard? What's the difference between a charlatan and somebody who can actually cast spells? From the perspective of somebody who doesn't know magic when they're looking at it until they've actually seen it. So, what's the difference between a person who can sell legitimate potions and a person who sells snake oil and this stuff? Like, well,
one is really relying on the placebo effect.
Yeah. So, well, you see, this is the spit of a lycanthrope. It's genuinely milked from the mouth of a werewolf. If you spread this on your head, sir, you will have a lustrous pelt, the envy of every lady.
Sign me up.
It's like, take my money.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the wizard's like, no, you fool.
Don't do that.
If you get any of that, it's like, if you cut yourself shaving and get this werewolf spit, you're in deep trouble.
Don't take werewolf spit. Take this potion that has several unpronounceable words on it.
Yeah. And is lycanthropy a disease or is it a curse? Like, are there microbes involved? Is there a lycanthropy microbe? Is it like, getting the measles? Or is it a supernatural curse? And is it possible for somebody to be killed, but their body to keep rising from the grave as a werewolf each full moon?
Oh, man, that's a good idea.
Because that's part of the folklore.
Yeah.
So the only way you can truly kill a lycanthrope is by silver through the heart.
I would say if we went for the lore of sympathy, if you're a werewolf and people knew that you were a werewolf and you died, and the local stories said that you would rise up at every full moon, then you would. But if you went to a place where the local stories were that you, as soon as you're dead, you stay dead, then that's what would happen. Same werewolf, different locations based on the myths, because myths have power.
Yeah. Sympathetically, the moon and silver are related.
Yeah.
I remember, I think it was partially inspired by the dwarves in Tolkien, and this writing only shows up in moonlight. You can, this doorway is illustrated by this moon magic. And dwarves, of course, lived in darkness, and silver and mithril was this light that they were seeking in the heart of the mountains.
Yeah, a metal that seemed to reflect more light than was given it.
Right. And in an old, don't even ask me where it was. I saw this in the original. It could have been from a Dragon magazine. I'm not entirely sure.
It could be from. You read so much stuff.
I know. So this was a ritual crafting that the dwarves could do, where they fashioned this perfect Hubble telescope mirror.
Oh, I think I know the. Yeah, I couldn't tell you where it was. It could be from the Epic of Gilgamesh. But
yeah. So essentially, they harness moonlight and craft it into a physical substance, a silvery substance, which is just mind-boggling. That's that's so magical. That's magical crafting.
That's pure legendary.
Yeah. It's forget about making a sword from a meteor that fell to the ground. Let's just harvest moonlight itself.
Light itself turns solid.
Yeah, and make a helmet out of it. It's let's touch that with your let's touch that with your bearskin lycanthrope and see what happens. It's concentrated moonlight. Yeah. What happens if you jab a lycanthrope with concentrated moonlight? Does it turn into a super werewolf? Is it like werewolf crack?
Oh, gods.
Or is it destructive? Does it act like super silver? We leave that in your hands.
I'm going to have to research that because that's a fantastic question. Give me a pencil.
Yeah. So there's lots of little things like that. Constantly ask yourself questions.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to feel don't feel constrained by the lore. Just feel like it's a sounding board. It's a diving board to jump into adventures.
I give the rules of magic not because I want people to go, well, that is now impossible. I give the rules of magic so that things can be balanced and still make sense in a story.
We're not making these videos to fuel their arguments.
Yeah.
We're making these videos to fuel their inspiration.
Exactly. Yeah. You say it so much better than I do.
Well,
but you've been doing this for a long
time. So long.
It's been 84 years.
Stay away and listen. Yeah. So, magic in the world of Faerun.
Magic.
It's everywhere. It's tied in with the history. The history is way over the top. Tens of thousands of years of history. What does human history go back? 6,000 years of recorded history of the Chinese Empire and stuff?
I think more than that.
The BCs and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not that far. In Faerun, you got 40,000 years ago. These civilizations which were spanning across the world.
You got 40,000 years ago times 7 for the people who keep going back in time to the very beginning.
Right, where does the Illithid start?
It's interesting to note when you said that magic is everywhere. It's even in places where anti-magic is. Anti-magic does not kill magic, Akasa. It creates an anti-Akasa field signature.
Right.
It's sort of like when you put sound, when you put two speakers next to each other, and you'll get those parts where the sound is louder, but the sound is also cancelled out.
Yeah.
That's what an anti-magic
noise cancelling magic.
It's noise cancelling magic.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so loud here that it seems quiet.
And Counterspell in previous editions was the reverse of the spell that they were casting.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it was almost like speaking it backwards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Interesting tidbit.
Yeah. And you gain a lot of inspiration looking back at old editions of the game and how they handled things. And a lot of things were guff. You didn't need 6 pages of information on different types of fletching, for instance.
No.
To handle bows and things. And I think it's admirable that there's a lot of shorthand in Dungeons & Dragons these days. Particularly in regards to modern weapons and things like that, and how they handle it quite well. A lot of people have said, we need spell jamming ships and things like that. You don't really need all the subtle nuances of that codified into different rules packages. All you need is the idea of what those different types of drives are, what their constraints are, what their fuels are, so what drives them in the story. Like, I want this ship to go from here to here. What do I need to make that happen?
Yeah.
Well, you need this, but this thing is going to be in the way that you're going to have to figure out a way around or try and muscle your way through. Either way, you're going to need to roll some dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With with Spelljammer ship fuel, if you make it a definite thing, then you've limited it.
Yeah.
If the rules say that it has to be this, then why haven't people seen it in the world beforehand? Does that mean that it's super rare?
Yeah. If you turn around and say, okay, in order to drive the ship from here to the Rock of Brawl, for instance, you're going to need a 6,000 GP diamond.
Yeah.
But previously in the game, you've said that the only place where diamonds that size are located are in the volcanic slopes on the mountain of Cholt, the fiery mountains of Cholt.
Yes.
That's the only place where you can find them. But you're in Fae.
Yeah.
Your game has just ground to a halt.
Well, that's nice. What are we doing instead?
Yeah.
But if you say, if the rules say it has to be a 6,000 gold piece diamond, but you could just go, or any diamond that has been blessed by Gond.
Yep. Or you can get 6,001 GP diamonds and cast a high level spell, or go and see an artificer who's got a diamond diffusing spell that they've been. But the reason why this spell is so hard to get hold of is because of the commercial value of a diamond fusing spell. That sort of thing.
Yeah, merchants wouldn't be happy with that.
I know. It's like, this is a spell that can instantly enhance any gem. For real. It's not even it removes the flaws of gems. It's like, okay, you're not creating it, you're just manipulating something that already exists. So it's a transformative magic, transmutation. Not a
conjuration.
Yeah. So, interesting. How rich can wizards get?
So rich. To the point that money doesn't even mean anything anymore.
Not just rich in material resources, but rich in influence.
Yeah.
Rich in information on being able to travel. And rich in lifetime.
Yeah.
So wizards can live for hundreds and hundreds of years past a normal lifespan. How do they do that? I've often said necromancy.
Necromancy is certainly one way.
Yeah. Why poison a fly when you can zap it with necrotic power and siphon its life energy into yourself?
You can... other ways that you can do it from previous editions is you can use conjuration magic. Time manipulation. You can slow down your own internal processes to the point that you don't even need to breathe or eat except for once every couple of 100 years.
Yeah. So it makes sense, really, that high-level wizards would become so divorced from the sort of natural biological constraints because of magic that they say, you know what, why don't I just go this extra step and completely sustain myself with magic? And you turn into a lich.
Or an astral form? There's some sort of astral avatar that you can become.
Yeah. Or you basically just imprison your soul in a vessel of some kind.
Yeah, like a shield guardian.
Right, something like that. So there's lots of different ways about it. You don't have, we've got examples of non-evil liches, for instance, like the Bale Norns are these elven liches.
The symbol is one, isn't she?
Yeah, something like that.
Sort of?
There's that in the Baldur's Gate stories, or is it, no, the Planescape video game, there was this guy who was like an immortal.
But we come into basic human psychology with the necromancy. Necromancy is horrific.
Yeah.
And unspeakably evil at times, especially becoming a lich. But compared to becoming a time avatar or getting an astral form, it's much easier.
Yeah.
Sure, you have to sort of give up part of your soul or sort of do morally unquestionably evil things, but it's way easier.
We've all seen the zombie shows. I mean, have you seen Pet Sematary? I mean, you don't want to even bring back a pet.
No.
Because the things that come back are evil.
Very, very bad.
Because they're anti-life. They're the opposite of life.
But I often say that liches are those people who just went the easy route.
Yeah. But being a lich, I think, is horrifically stressful. So you're not only are you transformed and now sustained by magic, but magic is kind of hoogie-woogie. Like it's controlled by other forces.
Yep.
You're now completely reliant on it.
Yes.
But we have had instances where very powerful mages have gone from being a lich back to being a living person again.
Which makes sense. Anything that can be cast forward should also be able to be cast backwards.
Yep. I think Iolum is one of the ones, the one who came up with ion stones. I think that's right. I could be. I need to make that second Netherall. The Empire of Magic story.
Ion Stones is one of the things that was taken from the Dying Earth series.
Yeah, they weren't originally in the World of Tyrell, the lore there. They weren't originally called Ion Stones. That was the wizard who made them, but he called them something else.
Yeah.
But then after a while, everybody went, oh, his stones. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's a pretty good chat. We're getting close to an hour there.
Good Lord, where did that time go?
I know.
Did we talk about magic?
Yeah.
I think we did at parts.
We talked mostly about around magic.
I think the title that I'm going to put on this is AJ and Red talk about magic-ish.
Exactly. Magic-ish.
Yeah, magic-ish.
Magic adjacent.
Yeah.
Magic friendly.
Magic is in there somewhere. Good friends with magic.
There's magic in the air. All right, catch you later.
Bye.